Hey, what's up guys? Here we are for another round of the Python BACnet Stacks Playground. Yeah, let's get to some updates here. So this is the GitHub account here. So just go to the GitHub profile for the Python BACnet Stacks Playground. We've been playing around with this for quite a while now, and we're on to the Vibe Code app 8 and 9, which I'm kind of excited to show you guys. So Discord server, if you have any help, just try this out. So this is kind of like turning into like model context. You know what I mean by that? So you could actually dump this link into like a AI chatbot. They can all reach out to the internet, and it can kind of comb through all of this information here about how to write some logic in Python, Python scripts to work with building automation systems in BACnet. We've been learning quite a bit here. So it wasn't my original intention that this would be kind of like a model context repository, but it's kind of turning into that. And I'm still learning a lot here too. And like there's still this applied computer science 101 in Python. I actually want to continue that. We are up to the day 27, I think, for learning algorithms. I also want to do an update in that too I have another project called Open Fault Detection Diagnostics, Open FDD. And those are essentially algorithms too. So those are like very glorified alarming. So building automation alarming, like when a sensor is out of calibration or a pump or a fan fails, some kind of motor status. Alarms will dial out usually through email, then it can text maintenance personnel for the buildings that there's a problem, and which I want to get into in this series as well. Some point down the road that we'll make a building automation system from scratch with a web app. It's basically a web app. And so this is kind of turning into if AI could just make a building automation system rather than buy one for $5,000 or $10,000. So historically, all building automation systems are proprietary software. $5,000-$10,000 licensing. You name it, really expensive hardware. Prior to that, it was all analog systems, more like a residential thermostat, or they ran off of air pressure. But since the 1990s, they have been computerized, and some manufacturers have made just insane billions of dollars off of very expensive proprietary building automation systems. And can we just make one with AI is kind of my latest and greatest venture in this area. So a lot to experiment here. So hope you're having fun following along. I'm experimenting with OpenClaw, which I have done a few times. Just seeing if it could do something cool with the Voltron framework. So the Voltron framework is, I demoed this before. It's made by Pacific Northwest National Labs. It's been around for 10 years. It's like an IoT platform, mostly I think meant to scrape data from buildings, push data across the internet to a centralized location, classic IoT practices. And I was kind of curious to my last YouTube video is to see if you can make it into a building automation system. Kind of, we got some very primitive concept ideas. We did that with OpenClaw did that actually. So I want to play around with Cursor today. So Cursor is another AI coding IDE. Anyone using OpenClaw, I'm currently testing this out. I found this off of Reddit. So you just copy this and then paste it right into the OpenClaw chat. And it's some kind of like model routing policy, getting into how models, AI works behind the scenes. So it's to use like simple, so there's a lot of, in all of this large language model stuff, and especially agentic AI, there's really simple tasks. You don't need a really expensive enterprise level model to make the decision. It can be a really cheap, inexpensive model to use. I want to test out soon doing locally hosted models for this, and then really complex tasks for enterprise level models on the cloud. So the newest thing down the road someday is myself experimenting with simple models for simple tasks because it's cheap. And then if I'm just running into all these issues where I think OpenClaw out of the box just defaults to everything being really complex, really expensive models, and I was just burning through rate limits and tokens. But this prompt that I got off of Reddit kind of helped a lot. So whatever model routing policy helped a lot. Okay, so like we've been into these working with BACZero, backpipes along the way, point discovery, read priority array, and BACnet. We still have yet to do this too, I realize. Getting into COV, so we should just kind of play around with that someday. But we did do, so this is to do, actually, we have to come back to that. So OpenClaw, so we did this, we demonstrated OpenClaw can bootstrap Voltron in Linux on a Raspberry Pi from my Windows computer to the BAS Pi on my test bench, which is kind of impressive. You give AI SSH access into Raspberry Pi, and it can set it all up, does everything. There's lots of people on the internet exploring what OpenClaw can do. Mostly it's scraping your Twitter feeds or whatever, doing something kind of dumb. But why not to see what it can do in the building automation world in HVAC? No one is doing this, so a lot of people are playing around with OpenClaw with a variety of resources. And I guess leave it to us here to play around with HVAC and building automation, building management systems. So we did do, so it could bootstrap Voltron, and it made a really simple a GUI. So part of that dashboard, a building automation system, you always need a GUI. The maintenance personnel, they need to see temperature sensors, which this did. This used the Voltron framework, a web agent, and it just showed like the temperature sensor values. And there's even some kind of like little feature of alarms, like if a sensor was out of calibration, that hey, this is an alarm, and it changed color on the GUI. So like what I want to get into, I actually was kind of playing around a little bit more with Voltron with this, and I might actually go away from Voltron because I think it's still kind of really hard to use. But it's there, improved OpenClaw, and it's really hard. Voltron is a really tough framework, and using AI really makes it easier, but I was still running into some roadblocks, and I'm kind of curious as to make, I have this to show you today. So this is just a UI to mimic basically a building automation system scheduling widget. So the building automation system, you need to see temperature sensors, the state of the HVAC system, if it's running or not, fan systems on or off, temperature sensor values. Another feature is scheduling equipment, and then also alarming. And then alarming, you need to dial out to notify the people on a failure, and then also log some data too. So I think we can do this all through vibe coding web apps. And then we'll get into, I have some ideas to vibe code more advanced web apps. Some of these web apps, these frameworks like the Django framework, they even have SMTP features built into it right out of the box. It's like, they call it, what do they call it? Kind of like bells and whistles included or something like that. So some web apps there's nothing. It's just bare bones, a couple lines of code, which I'll show you. There's nothing there. But some other web app frameworks that are more complicated to use, almost as complicated as the Voltron framework. Django has a lot of cool features built into it, like logins. So right out of the box, it's like a JACE almost, where you can create logins for people, an email service that if someone forgets their user account and how do you reset it, to dial out to the user to reset your password. All those bells and whistles are kind of built into it right out of the box, which is kind of cool. So I want to experiment with that a little bit. And yeah, if that is not built into it, like all the user management, all of the UI to log into it, people have to build it. Like a software engineer has to build all that. So in these days, every building automation system is just a web app. So very few, if any, building automation systems exist anymore that you don't dial into with a web browser. So they're all web apps these days. And yeah, I think we can totally do this. And then this will all turn into people be able to just point your OpenClaw, your AI tool of choice, right to this website and chat with it, like make me a building automation system. So like what I was trying to talk to on the last videos before, it's like I think this is most geared towards people that are building automation technicians. So these are the guys that are they're building the building automation system inside of a building. And what I mean by that is like there's a manufacturer that has parts and pieces that you can buy, kind of like how an IT guy will go and set up a Wi-Fi network or networking system inside of a building. Like you'll go buy parts and pieces, routers, switches, hubs from Cisco or whatever. So kind of think of it like that. An OT technician, operation technology, not IT, OT and IoT. Those are the guys that'll go purchase devices from HVAC controls manufacturers. Usually they're the PLCs and some kind of little networking kind of devices, and kind of like an IT guy that sets up all the networking equipment. They're setting up the building automation system, all the PLCs, the sensors, the communication networks, the supervisory level device is what I want to play around with to see if we can build with AI for free and just run it on a Raspberry Pi. So anyone that's familiar with this is probably hard to see, but I don't think I can zoom in here. I can't. So this is a tool that the Tritium Niagara, it's a framework for building automation, proprietary framework, very expensive. These are tools that you use to build a building automation system. I just have it running locally here, and you can set up all of your logic. I just have some this is like what I mean by like all of the ladder logic that the operations technology person builds. Average, subtract, find the absolute value, divide, feed it into a block, and it does something and it makes the HVAC go. This is a schedule widget. So this is what I want to demonstrate today. If you can read this is probably hard to read on your screen, but this is this 7-day calendar. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then we want to schedule the HVAC to run from, let's say, how about 6 to 6? And then I can apply that Monday through Friday. And then no HVAC for Saturday. So this is how the maintenance people, how they schedule the HVAC of a generic weekly calendar widget. And then all of the manufacturers have this in common. And there's always some kind of like another calendar widget, which is just a date picker for holidays. So you would do in here, like you would say Christmas is any year. So you could do, like you would set Christmas as December 25th. And you can even say any year. Set as okay. So now this has a special date in here that the building will not run because people won't be inside the building on Christmas. We can save electrical energy, so that's why they do this. So regardless if it falls on a Tuesday, if Christmas was on a Tuesday, that special event will override the weekly calendar. So that's kind of like what I wanted to just demonstrate today. Is this is just a web? All the frameworks, they do this in just a web app, and can we use AI to just make this for us? And the answer is yes. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense, guys. Do we need to pay $10,000 to $5,000 to buy this when we can just make it ourselves now? Okay, so that's where I wanted to go with that. And just like, I think the people like that would benefit from this are the people that are really hands-on in the building automation systems themselves. Like picture like your mechanic that's like really deep in grease in their engine, turning wrenches. I can't do that stuff. I don't have those skills for the life of me. But like if you gave them a tool to build a transmission or something with AI, I don't know, like they're the people that could like, wow, like I'm already, hands-on in this building automation system, connecting all the wires and the relays. And like, if something goes wrong, I can just revert back to my old ways of doing things. And like the mechanic with a car, the technician is the one that can really validate that, like, yay or nay, like, yes, this is working, or not working. So that's my point. Anyone wants to argue with me on that? I'm a former building automation service technician for quite a few years, and I did a lot of retro commissioning. So I don't think you need a PhD in something to do this stuff. You just have to do it. One other thought on this is, like, I had another friend. He even has a degree in computer science, which I'm kind of jealous at, and this is just not his passion, and he's just not interested in it. And it's just like, kind of feel bad for the guy, but I like this stuff. This is really cool. This is fun. Some people might have like different interests. Maybe you go fishing on the weekend or something. I did more fishing for a whole lifetime growing up, and I'm just not interested in fishing anymore. I actually kind of like learning this stuff and the AI tooling, and I think it's cool enough to even do on a weekend. It's Saturday today, middle of the day. I think this is kind of fun. So that's another thing. I do like this stuff. So plus I think it could get me a better job and like something that pays better money, so this is my motivation behind all this stuff. And it's just interesting that some people are just like, don't care, so it's, I think, another piece of the pie, not only being like a really hands-on person, is that you kind of have to like be interested to learn the stuff and then keep up with the tools. So another thing my friend complained about, even with a degree in computer science, he's just like not into it, just into different things in the present day, which is cool to be able to state that. What is your passion? He just says he just doesn't, kind of worries about not keeping up with the current tooling and the AI stuff, and it's like, because it's changing fast every day, and it's a ton of effort to like keep up with like what are people doing with OpenClaw or Claude or Cursor, so I think you have to have like that kind of drive in you, that this is just fun, this is worth getting out of bed for, and you're deep into the technician level, like that auto mechanic in the garage, deep in elbow grease, except you'd be deep in wire nuts and cabling and HVAC fan dust in the boiler room. You kind of have to be in that mode. I think you can simulate it on a test bench, but as soon as you get into the real world, into the real building, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, enough of that. So like, we're gonna play around with a BAS widget in React. So let me see if I can just Okay, so like this is what I want to demonstrate in time to like this is the BAS Pi. This is just a little schematic I made. A couple other Raspberry Pis on my test bench here. So this is my Windows PC. We use PowerShell, and I SSH into the BAS Pi that's running Linux. And then we'll eventually get into Docker containers. These are little containers with little Linux images in themselves, which will run web app frameworks in. And then there's also another application called the DIY BACnet server, which is an app that I made that is also a web app. So we can run multiple web apps on one computer, which I'll demonstrate, and then we orchestrate all that through Docker, which is also a really cool application. So like this is like the web app that we'll build a little bit later that will serve back to us our HTML files. So like when we dial into a web server, you go to Google, it serves an HTML file. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll kind of get into building this out a little bit better too. So yeah, let's just get into it, I guess. So okay, so I'm in Cursor right now. So I've been demonstrating things in VS Code. This is also VS Code under the hood. I think Cursor is a fork of VS Code, which is another open source project. I'm just going to see if I can zoom in a little bit further. Let's see appearance, see if I can zoom in one more time. Hopefully this is a little bit better. But this is like, it's basically VS Code, which I have in a white setting. I like the white a little bit better than the black. A little easier for my eyes, but we can chat with the AI. And then this is my my project over here on the right hand side. So like this is my this is the Python BACnet Stacks playground, and here it is on this side. It's just locally. So like hopefully this makes sense. What I think I'm going to get into is like you can you should get familiar with Git. Git is GitHub, so it's a tool for hosting your software on a website where people can download it and contribute, and just for managing code bases, it's really powerful. And people that know GitHub, it's also something on your you can put on your resume that you know GitHub. You can just download a zip file of this, so you can just download a zip and then extract it and then open up an IDE inside of this, or you can use a tool called Docker Desktop, or you can clone it and then use the command line. I like Docker Desktop. This is it right here. So yeah, there's just so much to learn, but I recommend start playing around with the Git on your own time. Feel free to ask me if you want to make a video on Git. I can do my best. So hopefully that makes sense that this is the Python BACnet Stacks playground, and then this is I have it locally, and then I'm actually running Cursor opened up into the directory that I have the Python BACnet Stacks playground. So what I'm just going to go do, these are like the files where you open things up. I'm just going to close everything. So there's here, that's here, there. So I'm just going to drag in this to the chat. And then what's also kind of cool on Cursor, you can go into settings, and then you can see all of the AI models. So right now I'm running these two models, GPT 5.4, Gemini 3.1, which I'm having really good luck with. And then other people use, maybe I'll put Codex on, Sonnet, Opus. You can start playing around with what models you want to use. And under the hood, Cursor orchestrates all that. I don't even know which model is doing what, but you can see it kind of it looks like two people chatting back and forth. I think that's the models kind of, one is like an orchestrator and one is the one doing the work. One might help out when there's bugs or something, who knows, but it's kind of cool. Okay, so let's just fire this up. Let's do, so this is something I have before that, this is basically what I want to mimic is the building automation head end, that there's an app, which is also made by AI, JavaScript, the HTML file, and then here's a Python script actually that helps just serve the app. So let's just see if we can fire this thing up. Here's CSS. So one thing, just a little crash course on the HTML. So like, this is just an HTML file. Most people are probably familiar with what that is. Hypertext, something or another. Can't remember the acronym. And then CSS is actually styling. So you do like, you style all of your fonts and whatever, that's where the colors come from. And then you insert that into your HTML file. And then I know just enough to be dangerous with this stuff. And then this part of the HTML file is actually the app.js, which is all of the, makes it all, you can play with it. You do all your visualizations, everything in JavaScript. So that is also gets injected into the HTML file. I won't go into this in much detail, but this JavaScript here is what really makes it all happen. Like 1,000 lines of JavaScript. There's also like a much more advanced version. This is like React. So in software engineering, there's full-blown front-end developers. They would probably do something in a really fancy framework to write code, front-end code, and React is one of them. It's a really powerful front-end web development framework. And I'm just going to do this in vanilla JavaScript, so that's why it says vanilla. So it's just like bare bones. You can even say vanilla Python means that it's just plain Python. There's no libraries or anything. It's just plain old JavaScript. But React is like a very powerful framework, so I'm just going to see if I can get this. Might be able to do this without even needing AI to help right now. So let's see. So let's try this. So I'm going to have to change directory into the vibe code app 8 to see if this will work. Okay, it looks like it's serving. So what goes on here, there's just a little Python script built into Python, which would be vanilla Python, is actually a little HTML server that's meant for development purposes only. So it's not like a full-blown web app that you can serve things on a Raspberry Pi or build a website. It's just for development of web applications that have something built into Python to play with. So that's what we're using here. And then when I ran the command python vanilla serve.py, that's actually serving this locally. So when I'm still running the Python script from PowerShell, and their little Python web servers hosting the HTML, and it'll serve us all locally here, localhost. When we get into doing things from the BAS Pi, like the Flask web framework will serve the HTML to us, but we're just doing this all on the same computer. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. Okay, so let's just dial into this. So I was trying to bring this up, and I wonder if we have some issues. I'm also opening up the developer console. I don't know why that isn't working. Maybe we'll just have cursor fix it for us. No errors. So this is also something too I check quite often. Go to Tools, Developer Tools, and then you can see errors in the JavaScript. Nothing. Maybe we'll have to ask cursor. Say not working. Browser not working. The HTML is served, which I can dial into, but the browser just spins and spins. Any ideas for the vanilla? All right, so this is real agents. Okay, so here it goes. So the AI is inspecting this now. Found a classic bug. Just going to make sure, yep, it's not working. No errors here. Whoops, sorry. All right, so this is the power of AI. See, it's doing something. So I think like one agent is doing something behind the scenes, and another agent is writing the code, you know, so they're all doing something. I am actually going to Control C. So this is PowerShell over here. I'm just going to turn you off. Looks like it's not, I can't. So we'll just close it and then do a new terminal. It's doing something here. Okay, what do we got? Still going. I thought this was done. Sorry, guys. But this is what it looks like when cursor is writing code for you or doing stuff. It goes nuts. So AI is really good at writing stuff. Oh boy, look at it go. Okay, it's actually fixing way more code than I thought it would. Huh. Let's just see what it does now. So I think it fixed something. So maybe you have to change it back into the vibe code app 8, tab complete. Run our Python script again. Oh, there we go. Okay, so cool. So this is what I'm talking about. So for me, just to make this, even with the help of the AI, was a ton of work. Oh my God. So cool. This is looking good. It's rendering. This is what, so right now we're still on the Windows computer. See how it's like serving it to us on 127.0.1.port 8080. So that is all coming to us localhost. Like we don't even have to reach to another server. But this is pretty cool, guys. Okay, so this is like what I was trying to demo before, a weekly equipment schedule. Okay, so let's make a new name. So we could just say this is for our air handling unit. Add a schedule. I'm also going to open up our browser console. so we're on the schedule for AHU. Schedule AHU, no schedule active. Okay, so by default, the schedule looks like it's from 7 to 5, the air handling unit schedule. So if we want to, this is the way that I'm doing it, like what I was demonstrating before was sliding this around. That was a little too difficult. I couldn't quite make that, but let's say, we'll just say this day it starts at 11 and we run the building to 8 o'clock at night, and then some other days we run the building from 9 to 2. So, and then we could even say there's no schedule on Tuesdays, and on Sunday we just do 8 to 11. So see how it automatically kind of adjusted the equipment scheduling. It seems like all building automation systems have some kind of a weekly scheduling widget or another. Read only. So that works. And then what I wanted to do was how we add in like our Christmas or Christmas break. So we could go to December, and let's say it's a school and people are off from here to on the date range. Add selected date range. So, and the building will be unoccupied at that point in time. So that's our equipment schedule. And then this is where like we'll do this down the road. It's like we will assign this to multiple, if maybe there's this one fan command that you need to assign it to. So we'll build this. We'll we can vibe code this into to a real mimic, writing to real BACnet points where once we would deploy this, like we'll be on the Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi will be actually serving this HTML, this dashboard, and also this building automation scheduling widget. And then we'll be writing to the BACnet network through another Docker container through here. So this is be kind of like our architecture, is our building automation system will be a Raspberry Pi running 2 Docker containers at the moment. And then we'll kind of dial into it through Windows. Pretend this is a JACE. We're making like a soft JACE. If you're familiar with that, it's a supervisory controller from one manufacturer, about a $5,000 appliance running licensed software that also comes with fees. So I believe we can do it all for free. So this is all that I wanted to show you, was just like what goes into making the UI. And maybe while we're at it, we could probably play around with the cursor a little bit more. So this is part of the last one. This was for the Voltron. So in Voltron, this was not Docker, if you remember. This was all ran from another Linux service called systemd. Docker, I like Docker a little bit better. So let's just ask cursor to make something for us. So I'm just going to say this was an older app on Voltron with a web agent, but the dashboard was real neat. Let's just say, can you add in these features to our new UI? Okay, so we're by vibe code at 8. In the vanilla, keep the styles, which is the CSS. Keep the styles of the vibe code 8 look and feel, but I want the general dashboard. Eventually this will not be served from Voltron, but from a future Flask app that we will make in the future to handle interacting with the BACnet network similar to Voltron. Can you make me the UI now for a generic dashboard that will extend from the scheduling dashboard? Also curious if the features of the UI can be a unique JS file, and then also the schedule can be a unique JavaScript file, and all come together on one HTML file. Gosh, I'm just debating about even deleting the React. This stuff is just so complicated that I even have a hard time making use of it. It's just very advanced, but you know, if there's a front-end developer, they would be doing stuff with here for sure. In React, it's just you know, there's just so much to know in this industry that even the vanilla JavaScript is enough for me to handle. Let's just see what this will do now. When they get cursor, it has enough context there, so gosh, maybe I should just split this into two videos. So I'll probably kill this video pretty quick. I also in ChatGPT, I was exploring this a little bit through a chat interface, and like I did find some. Maybe we can just vibe code this today and then actually get it working tomorrow. I was asking ChatGPT quite a bit of questions here. As you can see, I like to play with the AI a lot. Okay, so sorry, where was I, guys? Okay, so this is what I want to make. This isn't too terribly different than this. It's we'll be using Flask Django, so to make to mimic the Voltron master driver framework, and then save some basic data to JSON on the Raspberry Pi, and then this will be the app that I'll be demonstrating tomorrow for the DIY BACnet server. So I'm just gonna add this into our chat. Say, can you make the Flask app as well that serves this? For now, keep it simple, and WebSockets would be kind of cool. Would be kind of cool in any places you see fit. It is just for learning purposes only at the moment. That is why we chose to use the JSON in no database. And then I'm also going to give it a link Another thing that ChatGPT can do is it can go and reach out across the internet. So this is my do-it-yourself BACnet server application. So I can actually demo this tomorrow. But the nuts and bolts of it is you define BACnet points in a CSV file, and it stands up a little BACnet server. And it's basically the same thing that we've been working with in previous Vibe Code videos of like when we demonstrated the mini device. This is a mini device made into a web app. So you just create a BACnet server, and it's a discoverable BACnet application. This is what we'll be using. All run from Docker. So, and there's even documentation. So I'm just going to feed this all into Cursor, and it's going to make it. It might take a little bit of debugging, but it can read through all of the documentation too. Actually, you know what I might just do is just give it to here. I think it can read through this a little bit better. So see these docs, or maybe we'll get at both. Why not? I'm just going to say, go nuts, make haste. On this Vibe Code, let's see. So this is this GitHub project for learning purposes on making a BAS from scratch. Okay, so let's see. I think it finished the last thing. So it wrote a ton of code for us, which is mind-boggling. It would take me a month to do all that. And next I'm going to tell it to do this. I figured I want to do this today too because I have to monitor my cursor usage. So I'm right at 96% of my allocation, and my plan resets tomorrow. So I can squeeze in a bunch of this. Even if it writes the code today, tomorrow we should be able to fix all the bugs. There'll just be tons of bugs, I bet, to fix and test. So another thing I want to say is the Flask app will act like the Voltron master driver inspiration. So that is like how we set our polling, how soon we'll start polling our BACnet points, read and write. Let's see, so the Flask app will act like the Voltron driver, and we need, let's see, I'm trying to think how we should do this. And our CSV file defining the BACnet points for the DIY BACnet server will have a schedule point, which we need wired from the Flask app to the DIY BACnet server. Working mechanisms for when we adjust the schedule UI via the HTML, that under the hood is that the Flask app will interact with the DIY BACnet server in adjusting the the BACnet side of the BAS schedule. So I'll demonstrate all this tomorrow. I'm just going to hit build. So this will probably chug away on it for a good 5-10 minutes, I'd imagine. I can kind of use up the rest of my cursor usage for the month. And So like what I want to do, if you can remember, and this should be blank. No, this is. So if you remember in Vibe Code app 5, was it? No, we did a point discovery, and then the one before that. Okay, so this is where we were working with in Backpipes how to read a schedule widget. So if you remember, we ran the mini schedule calendar device. And then through BACnet, we were playing around with how to, let's see. So this is like a mini calendar schedule device. We'll use these same scripts again, that when, through the JavaScript front end, we can adjust this. And then the idea that'll filter down to the Flask app, and then the Flask app will talk JSON RPC requests to the DIY BACnet server, and we'll be able to see this change on the BACnet side too. So that's what I'm shooting for. So a lot of cool things going on here with using AI to build cool tools. So this was a complicated one, guys. Apologize if it's a little all over the map, but I think this would be really cool. I'm like very positive that we'll just keep building this and building and building, and that people will be able to just point some AI tool to this, make me an AI that can do something, that that can build you stuff. I'm very confident that this will be an AI model context repository. So, because I know this has also worked here. So I've done this before on the Niagara platform through the Java widget. Some people have also reached out to me that they've pointed Claude code to here, and it's it helped them spit out some cool stuff, help them to make a widget, do something cool. So I know I'm very confident that the Python BACnet playground will turn into another model context protocol to build whatever, like a building automation system for free. And if you have a spare Raspberry Pi, or the IT department has spare desktop computers laying around, they can just spin them up as a Linux server, and now you do have free hardware too. So I love that when IT departments have machines to spare that you can rescue from the dumpster. This is kind of fun stuff to start playing around with. So this was a long one. Thank you for following along. I think, let's check on cursor here. Check the disk. If you want to do any of this fun stuff, just jump on the Discord channel. I'm more than happy to help out as well. So feel free and have fun. Happy BACnetting. Talk to you later.